Well, hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hassman, and today I'm joined by a brand new rock star. I'm super excited to dive into some really interesting topics today. He's the founder and CEO of Ramsey Innovations and a serial entrepreneur, Jon Morris. Thanks so much for joining me, man.
Thanks so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I've got some great different questions for you queued up today. I'm really excited about that. So I want to start here. What are two questions that every business needs to answer in order to differentiate themselves?
So I actually call it the two-question test.
Oh, okay.
And what you're going to find is the first question is fairly easy and most people can answer it. It's the second question that stumps them.
Okay.
So the first question is, what makes you unique or different from everyone else?
Right.
And the typical answers I'll hear are, you get to talk to more senior people, or we have better customer service, or we're more data-driven. So it's the second question that you have to be able to answer, which is, there are 120,000 agencies in the United States. And 49 of those 120,000 just told me that they have the same differentiator as you. So how are you different from those 49 other agencies? And so what I explain to people is, first of all, the answer doesn't have to be where you are today. It has to be on a journey that you're going on to be better at that. So if you say that our differentiator is customer service, and 49 other agencies say the same thing, here are things that you could do that could put you at the next level. So, we have 24/7 support where people will get back to you within 60 seconds or less. We use technology or bots to identify the answers to your questions that we've analyzed all the most common answers that come across. I'm making this stuff up as we're talking right now, but the point is that whatever you say your differentiator is, that you have to budget to make it your differentiator and go on a journey. I'll give you an example. My last company, I found an agency called Rise Interactive. I grew it to one of the largest independent digital agencies. And our vision was to be the leaders in leveraging data to help brands make smarter marketing investments. That is a very, very fancy way of saying we are data-driven. So how are we the leaders at leveraging data? So the first thing is, in order to get a job at Rise, you had to take an analytics exam, because we wanted analytical people that could actually mine data and come up with insights. It had a 22% pass rate, and you were not allowed to interview until you passed that exam.
Wow.
The second thing is, when you talk about data, I always follow up with, well, what data are you talking about? There's media data, there's customer data, there's consumer data, there's pricing data, there's inventory data, there's competitive data, there's all sorts of different types of data. So at Rise, we really focused on media data. And we built our own proprietary platform. I think there's 55 plus people on the product development team there today.
Wow.
Continuing to build out our technology. So this was a, 8-figure plus investment in our technology platform. Wow. And what it did is it really focused on media data, where it was able to identify waste and then redeploy that waste to scalable areas that will get you a positive ROI at a much faster rate than any human could ever do. And so you had these brilliant analytical minds, and you have this analytics platform that really focuses on media data. So that is an example of the two-question test.
That's super powerful. I love that. And I think so many times we ask the question, you get the question, you move on. But digging that next level deeper, I think really does push us. And so I think that's really good. Now, here's something I did not expect to ask from a marketing expert. Why is setting your goals inextricably connected to your budget plans?
So let's just think about it this way. Another big mistake that people do when they do their budgeting is they oftentimes look at things on an annual basis.
Mm.
And what I have people do is I break it up into a monthly basis.
Okay.
And when you take your new business goal, and then you start looking at how much revenue you need to generate by month. Well, now you have to ask yourself a question: how is my sales and marketing plan going to impact that budget? Mm-hmm. So I'll give you a real life example of a client of ours. We're putting their budget together, and we break up new business into two categories. Named new business, which is people in your pipeline that you are trying to close right now.
Yeah.
And what we call blue sky, which is unnamed new business, which is you're going to generate leads, and those leads are going to ideally convert to customers, and you have to convert those into revenue. And so when you look at what they've done historically, the amount of opportunities that they generate, their win rate, their plan was never going to work in terms of what they wanted their revenue to be.
Right.
So we had to think about how are we going to shift their sales and marketing strategy to make sure each month they're able to deliver on the customer acquisition goals that they're looking to achieve.
Yeah. No, I think that anytime you get a chance to sort of reverse engineer like that, I agree with you. Whenever I bring goals down, it helps me focus. You know what I mean? So, okay, that's good stuff, man. This is one that I'm dying to know the answer to. How is the formula of EBITDA a key to selling?
So I would say it's a key to growth.
Okay.
Okay. So there's actually going to use two different numbers here to talk about this. Okay. So the first is, I grew my last agency from just me to one of the largest independent digital agencies.
Yeah.
And one of my keys to success was that I spent more on sales and marketing as a percent of revenue than anybody else, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't mean that my absolute dollars were the most, but it means that if you were the same size as me, I was spending more.
Right.
Now, I did that in two different ways. The first way is that by focusing on EBITDA, which is earnings or profit before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, as a lower percent than everybody else, I had more money to invest. I thought of myself as my own private equity person. Mm. So a typical agency, 20% of their revenue should be profit or EBITDA. Okay. We were targeted between 0 and 5% for many, many years. So that gave me an extra 15 to 20% of revenue that I could put into sales and marketing. Hmm. That's interesting. The second metric that we talk about is gross margin. Mm-hmm. So when you think about everyone gets revenue, and it not like the media revenue, but your actual revenue, what I call net revenue. Mm-hmm. You then have to go hire people to do the work. And I was incredibly focused on how do I ensure that we do amazing work, that our clients love working with us, and our employees love working there, while at the same time, I can do it at a more efficient and more profitable manner than my competition. And if you can think about ways to do that, that frees up money that you can then spend into sales and marketing. So the idea is that if you want to grow, the more you can spend on sales and marketing as a percent of revenue, the greater the probability of you growing. And so those were the two metrics I really looked at to achieve that.
I think that the time we're living in to kind of look at those numbers is a really interesting time, because I think right now people, whether it be agencies or customers or whatever, there's some conversation around pulling back on that. And I think that, you see the folks who invest in it, who invest more, are the ones who come out of uncertain times the strongest often. And so yes. I think that's interesting stuff. Okay, man, final question for you. This has been great. How can technology automatically surface hidden insights? Can you, I've heard you or seen you mention that. So can you talk about it?
Absolutely. So I'll give you an example. I mentioned the technology connects that we built at my last agency, Rise. Mm-hmm. And we were focused on media data and identifying waste. and then identifying opportunities where you could redeploy that waste.
Hmm.
So I'll just use paid search as a really good example. A human can pull reports, it can look at data, but it's going to look at its data maybe on a daily basis, most likely on a weekly or monthly basis.
Right.
And it's going to do a snapshot at time. Technology can look at that data 24/7.
Hmm.
And so at Rise, there are 800 different alerts that literally can send you text messages, send you emails, that when they identify, hey, you wanted to spend $100 per lead, and we've now hit statistical significance, and you're spending $300 per lead on this one spot, we would recommend pausing it.
Yeah.
Or on the conversely, there's something called impression share.
Okay.
So imagine you're spending money on an advertising placement and your impression share is 10%. So what that means is that you could spend 10 times more money on that individual spot. Well, imagine if you wanted to spend $100 per lead and it came back and was like, hey, we noticed that you're only spending $60 per lead on this spot and you have 10% impression share. We recommend pausing that other crappy advertising placement that you're spending money on and increasing your spend on this individual spot.
Mm.
Now, manually, we can all pull those reports once in a while, but having tools that are 24/7 looking at the data is what's allowing you to really scale and spend your dollars in a more intelligent manner.
Wow, that's really cool. And what I love about what we're talking about here, John, is it's just very tactical. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and obviously it's high level, but really talking about ways that you can, increase your effectiveness. So this is really good stuff. So where can folks find you?
Yeah, they can find me at Ramsay, RAMSAY innovations.com. Can also email me at jon@ramsayinnovations.com. And then if you follow me on LinkedIn, I am doing posts probably 3 to 5 times a week, giving agency owners guidance and advice on things they can do to scale and grow their business.
That's awesome. Well, John, thanks so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And we'll have to do it again sometime. Okay.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me on here, Kirby.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time. Marketing.